What's going on, everybody? I'm Jason. This is Tennessee Mountain Homestead, and today we're going to do some wiring on the tractor. First of all, I want to do an ammeter like I talked about in the last video. And secondly, we're going to revisit the wiring I did a few months ago and clean it up some. Let's get into it. There's a couple things we got to do before we get started, and that is we need to remove the battery and the battery tray from inside the compartment here. And if you can look right here, you'll see there's a fuse block and there's a bus bar here. Now, the reason it's like that is because a few months ago, when I actually did the wiring on this tractor, I went to the local auto parts store. I went to all of them in town. There was like 4 or 5 I can go to. And that's the only options I could find. I found the bus bar in one store and the fuse block in the other. Now, it looks cool and it's definitely functional, but I need to put something smaller in there, and that's what we're gonna get to next. So yesterday after work, I stopped by a couple auto parts stores and I was able to find this. It's another fuse block, and it is a 6-position fuse block, and it has one main terminal on it. So I can come in with like a number 6 wire and feed all my branch circuits. And what's gonna happen is I'm gonna obviously take the bus bar and take that fuse block out, and I'll have a lot more room, and it'll be simplified by just having this smaller block right there. We're gonna go ahead and start removing the battery. Now, I gotta say that this battery's been in here for about 3 months now. I've been driving around and everything, and this hold down that I made for it really has been fantastic. I mean, I kind of expected it to hold up well when I made it, but it works really well. So we're gonna go ahead and get this battery removed. Like I said, we're gonna remove the battery tray, and then we're gonna mock up the ammeter. And before we go cutting a hole in the dashboard for it, we're gonna make sure it works. We're gonna test it out outside the tractor to make sure it works. All right, guys, we got the battery removed. I got the battery tray removed, and I got the piece that goes here, for the hood latch, removed, so I can access all my wiring in there. Now, what I got is a battery switch down here, a battery isolator switch, you can see down there, and I got off the secondary side of the switch, off the load side of the switch, I've got 2 number 6s run parallel with each other over to this bus bar. Now, that is a bit overkill. It's taking up space on my battery post. So I'm going to get rid of those number 6s, and I'm just going to run a number 8 or a single number 6 over to my new fuse block. And the reasoning for that is, when I do the ammeter gauge, what I want to do, well, the only way to do it is I want to see how many amps the alternator's putting out. So I need to run a wire from the alternator to the ammeter gauge, and then from the ammeter gauge to the load side of the battery switch. So that way, any load that's going out to my lights, everything else except the winch, it's not going to read the winch. That's on the line. I'm going to have that either on the line side or also the load side of the battery switch, so that way it doesn't go through the fuse block. It can't anyways. So all that being said, we're going to go ahead and, like I said, we're going to take out the bus bar and this old fuse block and these wires here that connect them together, and we're going to go ahead and get the new fuse block installed, and we'll be back with you in a minute. It's been about 20 minutes, and I want to give a quick update because I'm going to not be removing the bus bar. So if I take this bus bar out, I'm not going to have a good place to mount my winch, my winch lead. This is the circuit breaker for the winch. This is the lead. It was right here before. Now, I'm going to leave this bus bar for a few reasons, like I said. 1, for that. 2, because I don't have any more room on my battery switch to be putting extra lugs. And 3, I want to be able to isolate the new fuse block with the alternator so that there's no way the winch can read through it, which I don't think is going to happen. So the ammeter is going to be wired through the alternator, so the only load it's going to be reading is whatever the alternator is putting out. So if I was to hit the winch and it went under a load, even while the engine was running, the alternator might start putting out its maximum amperage, which is around 55 amps, I believe. So the ammeter gauge goes to 60 amps, both ways, positive and negative. So that's the max load the alternator can put on the ammeter. So I don't think that it's going to, let's say the winch was drawing 150 amps. There's no way it's going to be able to smoke the ammeter because it's not going to be flowing through that circuit from the alternator. It's going to be going from the battery straight to the winch motor and then back to ground. So that's why I'm leaving this bus bar here. And all these wires is what I kind of wanted to eliminate. These just plug in from the bus bar and feed each fuse to my outgoing circuits. Now once I get my new fuse block in there, I may have to extend a couple of these wires because I have 5 fuses or 5 circuits on this situation. The new fuse block is a 6 circuit, so I got one for something extra in the future. But they're on each side of it, which I'll show you in a minute. So give me another couple of minutes and we'll get back to you. So we got the new fuse block in. As you can see, it's right here. And it eliminated all those 5 wires for the other 5 circuits. Now I just have the original 5 circuits on here. So the first one is fuel pump. This one is lights, regular stock factory lights. I believe this one is, the third one on your left is the voltmeter. This is the rear LED, this is the front LED. And as you can see from the bus bar, I just put one number 10 wire to this fuse block because that's all I mean, that's overkill. But we got that done, and I got the ammeter gauge mocked up for right now. So these 2 wires come from the alternator, and this one goes back to my bus bar, and this is going to charge the battery. All right, so we're going to go ahead and test this thing. We're going to fire the engine up and see what it shows. Fuel pump. Oh, hold on. Fuel pump's running. I'm going to turn on all the lights, and now I'm going to fire it up. Putting out around 10 or 15 amps right now for the load and charging the battery. We know the ammeter works. I just seen it work. There's not enough draw on this thing to make it go opposite. I mean, when I turned it off, it kind of went to the left of 0 in the negative way, but we know it works. And I wanted to test it out before I put it in the dashboard for a couple different reasons. One, I got that thing from eBay. It is an Equus, and when I bought it, the description said it was a vintage ammeter. Well, when I got it, it was brand new in the package, but it was manufactured in 1995. So it's definitely new old stock. The other reason I wanted to not cut it in the dashboard yet is because I actually have to make the hole for it. And the diameter of that gauge, I measured it with calipers, it's 2 1/32 inch. Now the biggest knockout cutter that I have, so there's been a slight but pleasant change of plans here. Turns out I don't have to cut my own hole in the dashboard. There's already a hole here. It looks like it was for some other gauge, for another tractor, for another option. But there's a hole right there already through the steel. I just gotta cut out the plastic on the face of the dashboard. My weapon of choice to cut this out is going to be a Dremel tool with a side cutting router bit on it, I guess. Alright guys, we got the gauge in, we got everything put back to normal. I must say I like it. It's a lot cleaner in here without all those weird wires going down. Got one wire feeding that little fuse block. Also, I went ahead and hooked up the light and the gauge, and it does work when I turn on the stock headlight switch. You see there, it illuminates, and it looks a lot like the voltmeter gauge. that's going to be a wrap for today's video. I hope some of you guys enjoyed the content. I know it's not the most exciting, but it is what it is. It's just another step in the build process of this mud mower. If you're new to the channel and you found any of this stuff informative or entertaining, please feel free to give me a like, a comment, and definitely subscribe. Thanks for watching, guys. Once again, my name is Jason. This is Tennessee Mountain Homestead, and we'll see you on the next one.